Peace and blessings. I am Regina, and welcome to my happy place, Diva G's Reborns. Well, from the title of the video, you know what we are here to do. Boom, our baby Maddox. Yes, this handsome young man, it is now his turn. Before we begin, please do like, comment, subscribe, and share. So remember we primed him with 2 layers of prime, and he feels a little um like it feels like there's a little bit of a texture to him. He doesn't feel like smooth vinyl. Okay. Now, one of the first things that I would like to do is I want to begin um going into his creases and veining him. Now, this baby doll is for Karen, of making reborns with Karen. So we are striving to make a beautiful biracial baby for her to enjoy. So I want to get my pencil nice and sharp. My Prismacolor pencil. I am going in with the color chocolate. Chocolate is a good, pretty much a universally nice color that I can use for my melanated babies. So I'm going to use this color on our baby Maddox. It's chocolate Prismacolor pencil 1082. And I'm going to first start with his arms. That's where I want to begin, with his arms. His hands, his arms and his hands. So, okay. I don't know if this lighting is good for you or not. Let's see. Can I do that a little bit? Okay, let's see if that's what that looks like. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now, to get inside the creases, we need a sharp point. Okay, and what we also have is we have our pointed Q-tips. I like to use the Prismacolor pencil, as I've stated before. It's neat. It gives me great control. I love the colors. Um, so I like using the Prismacolor pencils. And let's see if I can get a little bit more onto camera. Trying to. I want to have enough light, but not where it's washing everything out. Okay. All right. So I'm going in the line inside between the fingers, and I'm not pressing hard. I'm not pressing hard. For me, creases are a shadow. Not like a whole lot of major color, but just the idea of a shadow to give the illusion of separation of the fingers. Because if you look at yourself, when you look at your own hand, Okay, you see a shadow, right? But it's not like crazy different than the color of my skin. It's not crazy different. It's not. So, for me, I like shadows that look that they're there, but that they're, what I consider realistic. And that's just how I like. Um, Now, the other thing is the creases that we do, we're probably going to have to kind of go across some of them again after we apply paint. It just depends on what it is that you feel is important, what creases you feel are important. Some people crease, some people don't crease. Some people crease would make the creases very prominent. Some don't. Now, let's see. Trying to get the lighting where you can see what I'm doing. And I can see what I'm doing. And that's light enough for me. Okay. So I'm going to go around with his fingers. And these are limbs that Karen custom selected for her baby Maddox. Okay. Okay. Now, I don't always really blend my lines for my creases because once I begin painting, they're going to kind of blend anyway. And he has these cutest little knuckles. There are certain areas that might want to start kind of doing a little bit of shadowing, and that's going to be around his nail beds. The difference with creasing and veining, well, of course, the colors, but excuse me, but with creasing, you tend to want the pencil to be nearly as sharp as you can get it so that it can fit into the creases. With veining, you really don't want you don't want it sharp. You want it to be kind of more of a blunt kind of point. You know, everyone has their own way that they express their art, because that's what this is. This is art. And how we express it is unique to ourselves. There are some artists that primarily focus on premature and newborns. So they do a lot of different things with skin tones that you maybe really wouldn't do with an older child. Then you have some that focus a lot on, they focus a lot more on maybe toddlers. And that's a different technique that's used with toddlers. We will be working on Charlie, I believe, once we finish our baby Maddox. I think we will work on Charlie. We have Charlie, who's a toddler, and we also have June, who is a 3-year-old toddler. And both of those kits happen to be realborns, meaning they were sculpted after the 3D images of real babies, real children. Now, Charlie, they have Charlie, I think they did him as a newborn, and then I think they also did him like as 3 months, and then 15 months. June, they did her as a newborn. I think they also did her like 3 months or something. And then, let me see, I think that light is getting wrong. Let's see. Is that better? And yeah, so I don't know how they decide on which kits, you know, which realborns will advance in age. I don't know if they make that determination by how many of the initial kit cells, or you know, how agreeable the baby or toddler is to being photographed, you know, or how well the photographs come out, because they do talk about it on their YouTube channel, that when they're, you know, taking the 3D images of the babies, of the, you know, they were saying about what parts actually translate into useful images or imagery so that they can sculpt it. And then there are certain things that show up on the 3D image as blank spaces. So they then have to kind of create what they think it would, that area would look like. They have to then try to figure, you know, figure that out. If I dim this light, that'll help a little bit, because I feel like there's a lot of Well, um, let's see. I'm adjusting the light for myself, but I'm also adjusting it in hopes that you can see what it is that I'm doing. Because I know that's part of what it is that we like when we're looking at reborning videos or reborning tutorials, that we can see what's being done so that we can, if we like what we see, we can attempt to duplicate that. It's so funny how I can see and it looks good to me, but it's not translating on the camera. Um, Trying to figure out what angle get the best lighting for you and me. So you see how his hands look now separated, whereas this one kind of looks like, you know, it's just vinyl, but you can see the details that we've added, and it makes him look real. He's starting to come together. Again, like I said, some of these we are probably going to really have to go back over them, and that is absolutely fine. You know, that happens pretty much no matter what medium you choose to crease with. Because once you begin to paint, some things kind of lighten up or almost really disappear. Now, when it comes to creasing, I do not crease every single crease. I crease the ones that I feel, quote unquote, are important, that will translate well on a kit. I'm really taking my time because it doesn't necessarily take this long to crease, especially when you're using Prismacolor pencils. It doesn't really take that long. But I am spending a bit more time showing the process because I want Karen to see her baby coming to life. The great thing about Prismacolor pencils, you are able to wipe them off just with a dry cosmetic wedge or the um, pointed Q-tip, or with a little bit of distilled water on, because I'm using air dry paints. I'm using air dry, so I use distilled water. And heat set, they use different mediums. But I think, when they want to wipe it off, like I'm creasing now, they could just use a cosmetic wedge to also take it off. You want to make sure that you stay within the creases. Now for me, when I crease, I'm mindful of how I crease the hand, because I don't like the look of the palms being very, very deep in color. I don't like that look. Um, so sometimes not sometimes, I will use multiple colors when I'm creasing. Um, and it just depends on what the overall color that I will be painting that area as to the color of the crease color that I will use. Now, because this is a fairly light color, well, this brown is kind of light. It's a good color to crease with. Now, what I am doing is there's a little bit more on it than what I want. So I want to take that off because it got on the skin as opposed to remaining in the crease. Okay. And I'm going into creases on the fingers. And I'm shadowing in between the fingers in here as well, because you want them to appear separated also on the underside of the hand. Because of the position of his fingers remaining in the creases can be slightly challenging. However, it is doable. And when I tell you I love Prismacolor pencils, I love them. You can be very precise with them, and there's very minimal that you have to do to clean them up. And they have the retention pretty much like any other medium that you would use to create the creases. You know, whether it's paint or pan pastels or Prismacolor, or you know, they all will lighten, you know, while you're going through the painting process or the baking process, if you know, if you are heat set. So I don't know that any stays any longer or any, you know, any better. But what I will say is, um, I've used um, crease with paint, I've creased with pan pastels, and I've creased with Prismacolor pencils. And what I will say is that my preference, hands down, is hands down. The precision, the ease of use, and there really is not a learning curve. Not really. Not really. You know, you have to, depending on the look that you're striving to achieve, whether or not you will um, blend the edges or, you know, blend the whole aspect of where you are creating the lines. But yeah, and I'm using a light touch. He has some of the cutest creases and little wrinkles. OMG. He really does. And you know how much I love my eyelid purple. And on some of the creases, I will be using some eyelid purple to further, you know, enhance them. There are things that when you begin working on the kit, you will see, maybe areas that you didn't when you were, washing the kit or inspecting the kit. You may begin to see other areas that you say, oh, wow, I like that. I want to make sure I highlight that. And anything that you focus on, that will become a bit more prominent. And so, yeah, that will become a bit more prominent. Now, if there's a particular feature that you do not want to be prominent, well, that's a feature that you would not, um, you know, crease or, you know, add extra coloring or something to it. That's why you can look at a doll that was, reborn by maybe three separate the prototype was maybe reborn by three different artists. And because of their interpretation, the kit will look different. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go in. We want to definitely honor these rolls. And we're going to get into them and enjoy enhancing them. And one of the things that, I did do was I went across the kit with, I primed it with 3 layers, right? So that it does make writing on the kit with the Prismacolor pencil a bit easier. And it also makes the paint adhere better. Some of the creases are superficial, and you can tell by how deep they are, and others are more pronounced, and you can tell that from the depth of them. Now, so far, everywhere on the kit thus far, I've wanted to focus, on the creases. There hasn't been a crease that I would say, oh, I'm going to not do that one. Now, when we get to his face, there may be areas that we're going to just strategically crease. Now, I want to show you this hand because creasing this hand is going to be different than the other hand because you have quite a bit of obscured areas on this hand. So I'm going to just sharpen my pencil just a little bit more. Try to get that point. Now inside the palm, I'm going to focus on for the underside of the hand. I'm focusing, paying attention to the creases on the fingers as well. And of course, sometimes you're going to need to shift the kit in directions so that you can see what you're doing. And if it's something that you don't, you know, if it went someplace you didn't want it to go, the Prismacolor pencil, get it off immediately, because if you don't like it now, you're going to like it even less later. So do your best to, to get it off. Now the thing is, if you were using paint, the brush sometimes will be able to bend in this area to create a crease. Now, one thing when you're doing the hand, or someplace that is really kind of bent or slightly obscured, you do want to pay attention to it and not ignore it, because otherwise it won't look good on the kit, on the finished product of the doll. So I'm taking my time to pay attention to the creases. And if there's anywhere that I'm getting outside of the line, I have a moistened Q-tip where I'm able to take care of that like immediately. And there are certain areas that you may decide that you're not going to really crease those. Now I can gently pull on the finger, gently, so that I can make that crease visible where I can get in there, right? And sometimes that is in fact necessary. So I pulled it back, and you can see that afforded me the ability to get some coloring in there with the crease. Now I will be very, I will say that when I'm on the hand and I'm looking at how the finger is kind of into the palm, okay, I'm going to be very mindful of how I crease it because it can end up looking dirty. So I want to be very careful because when I paint it, I'm considering the colors that I'm using to paint the palm. And to keep it clean, right? Because otherwise it will look dirty. It will look dirty. Now this hand, the thumb is slightly over part of the middle finger. So part of the nail is showing and part is obscured. So I want to get in there really nicely. And then I want to go around that nail bed where I can see it. Right? Okay, great. Let's see in there. Okay. And see, these are things that are considered foundational and will make a difference in how the kit looks painted. Taking your time with these steps, which is one of the reasons that when I was priming the kit, I focused a lot. You know, I wanted to be sure that all of the crevices on the hands I was able to get into, because that will make a difference. I'm trying to get in a little bit right here. Yeah. You'll be surprised what a kit looks like when it's like paint may be missing. And so that's why, like I said, I paid attention to priming and I'm paying attention to creasing. And I want to get in here because this hand is not fully open and it's not fully closed. So to add to that bit of realism, you have to be deliberate in what you do. you can definitely kind of, in a sense, step back and look at what it is that you're doing, and to see if that's giving you the illusion that you are seeking. Now we're going to go ahead and crease the palm. These ones are really beautiful. Really beautiful. And the thing is, these arms are an artist kit. So they're not even like, like a real born where it's after a real baby. It's after from an artist. Now who knows? They may have been looking at a baby and kind of mimicked it. I don't know. But I do like to read the different things that they share on their website about the kits and different things, because they do share a lot of different things. They do share it, which is really nice. So getting in the knuckle area. Because that's an area that would be darker because it's a, crevice. Like, again, there's some creases that are more superficial. So you may not be really worrying about making them, too deep. Because what happens is, all of the creases actually get color when you're painting. They do. So if you don't crease a particular area, it's going to get some color anyway. It just depends on what you want to do, how you want to accent that area. If you miss an area creasing, you will have the opportunity to crease again so that you can have that there. Okay. Nice shadow in between the fingers. Okay.
An artist who says a piano for her is not just a canvas, and she paints fragrant creations for the music she writes. Well put, and boy, can she write. She's also a brilliant player, a producer, a composer, and even a CEO of Pure Key Productions. So she literally is the keeper of the keys. Kayla Watts. Thank you for Faulkner doing this with us at some watercolors. Happy weekend Eve. Thursday. More getting Andy Simpson on watercolors.
Okay, see. Okay. And the foot. And we want to separate toes. Give the illusion of a shadow. Just provide separation. Has a nice bit of creases that actually matter on this kit. That will really look nice on the kit, you know, whilst painting. I love these nail beds. Quite nice. Creasing him is a lot of fun, actually. He has some really cute creases. You know, some of it I did note when I reviewed the kit and when I was cleaning and, you know, alcoholing the kit. There were some things that I noticed that were like, oh, that's nice. But even creasing, you get to see more on the creases as well. The sharp pencil really does make a difference in pulling the kit gently in certain areas. Helps too, because then you're able to get in there. Any stray mark, get rid of it immediately. Okay. Now for the foot, I do not crease all of the areas on the foot. I do not. I just do some of the main ones that I think are important to focus on. Those are the ones that I'll do. Okay. Okay. And his other foot. Let me make sure that I went across everywhere. Yeah, I did. Okay, good. Checking. Nothing wrong with double checking yourself, your work. Because if it's anything, you want to catch it and make whatever correction that you might need, right? And holding your pencil kind of straight when you're trying to go into a crevice can kind of help you get in there. And just going around again the nail beds with the brown, with this chocolate color, because it gives such a realistic effect on the doll. It really does add to that little extra bit of realism. And we plan on making a beautiful, beautiful